How do I end things as peacefully as possible? I've been with my wife for almost 10 years. I think I want to end things with her, and I've tried before, but she convinced me to stay. I've fallen in love with someone else and I feel so guilty that it's making me sick. I am cheating. She doesn't know. She emotionally cheated on me during our marriage and I chose to forgive her. No kids. We have a house and pets. Do I tell her the truth or tell her that I'm just not happy in our relationship anymore? I love her and I don't want to ruin our lives, but I don't know what to do. Please help me. Story 2. How long to wait so as to not hurt STBX too much? Separated just over 1 month. Feeling ready to date. STBX is bitter and resentful, wrongly accusing me of cheating. Moot point legally, as local legislation is no fault, but I didn't, and I feel really sad that she's saying this to everyone. I want to get back into the dating scene, but I'm afraid it might make the divorce process difficult by inspiring more spite and resentment on her. We have a kid 5 and she seems quite willing to use him against me, asking for an unreasonable amount of child support, clearly to maintain her lifestyle at my expense. She out-earns me. Besides, I don't want to date on the down low like I'm having an affair, and I also don't want my future dates caught up in the drama. Does anyone feel there's a reasonable period of time I might wait to date again? Divorce proceedings might take as long as a year and I just won't wait that long. Story 3. Ida for kicking my friend out but letting her child stay. 18 months ago my best friend's husband left her suddenly. She lost her job due to COVID and was essentially homeless, so we let her live with us. 6 months in, we allowed her new boyfriend to come and stay to help her financially and for support. As soon as this guy moves in, we start having problems with him. He's possessive and controlling of my friend. He's verbally abusive to her. Did drugs openly, after we told him not to. Hess bullied me until I've cried even after I told him to leave me alone. All this, and they fight constantly. We're talking screaming matches. Her behavior is also starting to becoming very questionable. This is important. Later it all comes to a head about a year into her stay, about 8 months for him. My 17-year daughter was cleaning her room and had a note on her door saying to leave her alone while she's cleaning or she'll stop cleaning. My friend and her boyfriend go into her bedroom and make fun of her and the sign. She gets really upset and is crying. I confront them about it and let loose on this guy. About the abuse, drug use, and that he was a guest in our house and he should behave as such. My friend says he didn't say anything that bad and my daughter is overreacting and that I made her BF feel unwelcome. My husband steps in and tells the guy that if there is any more fighting and they're gone. Fast forward a couple of months and the fighting between him and my friend is still going. This is where I might be TA. I asked my friend and her BF to move out, over text. Let her know that we're not happy with all the fighting and that she needs to find her own place now. They're both working. I do all my serious conversations with my friends, family and even my husband over text, as I feel I can get what I need to say out better and am not over emotional. She got really upset with me and we have a huge fight over text about the blow up with her BF and how I didn't respect our friendship because I asked her to move out over text. And this is the big one. A month or so prior, her son 19 meters came home one day crying hysterically. My husband and I sit him down and try and find out what the problem is. He confided in us that he feels abandoned by his mother and hates how she's behaving lately. She leaves without telling him where she's going, doesn't invite him to outings with her on weekends when she did previously, wasn't there for support when his boyfriend cheated on him. He decided not to move with his mother and her BF and was scared of her BF. We offered for him to continue to live with us instead. We told him not to tell his mother until we talked to her about moving out. I didn't tell my friend that I had talked to her son, instead encouraged her son to talk to her about his issues with her. Now she refuses to speak to me quite literally and haven't talked in months. So Ida for kicking my friend out but letting her child stay? Story 4. Ida for my response to my daughter's mom trying to parent our kid. Context: daughter's mom Kathy hasn't been in her life for about 10 years, walked out on my daughter Bailey 17 tomorrow without warning. She came back into her life 4 months ago. Backstory: I try to educate Bailey as much as I can, but sometimes kids make adult decisions. I try my best to accommodate to that as a rational parent, not an irrational parent. Bailey has been asking questions about certain things regarding time. After this I had walked in on her and her boyfriend. I'm sure you'll fill the blanks. I called his parents to ask permission to have this talk with them and they had agreed and said they'd like to talk to them as well. We talked. I'm not going to have these are the consequences, don't do it attitude. They are curious and stupid sometimes. My job is to protect them, not wait for a consequence to happen. I talked with them about everything they had to know. Protection: Before and after care, consent, doctors, just all S time ed and more. I'm sure a lot of people will disagree with this, but instead of being naive I'm going to educate them. Issue at hand. I guess Bailey talked to her mom about this, and she told Bailey that she was crazy, she will get pregnant, showed her a video of pregnancy, showed her what STDs look like, assured her she'd get one and with words I won't say such shamed her. Then came to me asking why I would tell kids something like that and I was ridiculous and irresponsible. I proceeded to tell her that what's ridiculous is thinking that will stop anything. At best it would do that periodically, then something will happen because they weren't educated. That's bad parenting. So yes, I educated my kid on how to do things safely instead of having them doing things that could hurt Bailey's or her boyfriend's bodies permanently. 'Cause pregnancy, you get the point. She kept going at me saying that I was irresponsible, I was being naive, I was letting my daughter W her around, I was just asking for her to get pregnant, and encouraging her to be a S. She kept going back and forth and something just said that she hasn't been in her life for a decade and has no idea how Bailey understands things, how she was parented, or anything. Why am I even entertaining this? I told her, Kathy, your opinion doesn't matter, you are not her parent and you don't have any rights to her, you don't even know her, so the way I parent my daughter isn't anyone else's concern but mine. Until you can tell me so much as what her favorite color is, please don't go out of bounds like this. She got pissed saying I was being in a shoal, I was undermining her and she gave birth to her and she has every say, especially when I am being irresponsible parent and trying to bring up the past to get away from my bad parenting isn't going to do that. I said that I won't entertain her issue with this and to never say what she did to Bailey. I'm now being told I'm in a shoal. Story 5. Ida for telling people my now ex-girlfriend has an STD. A few months ago, my now ex-girlfriend tested positive for high-risk HPV. From what her doctor has told her, this particular strain has no effect on men, but has the potential to cause cervical cancer in women. Hearing this I was upset, concerned, and confused as to how she could have an STD since we have been together for the past 6 years. She assured me that HPV can remain dormant in a person for years and that she's most likely carried it since at least 2014 and points to an abnormal pap smear from then to corroborate her belief. Now, her and I have 2 sons, one ours and one from her ex who was born in 2014. I also know of 2 guys she dated after her ex and before me, the brother of her former best friend and the fiancé of one of her friends. Due to this virus's ability to spread unknowingly and its possibility to cause cancer, I believe she has a moral obligation to tell these people, but she had stated that she had no intention of telling anyone as her doctor said she was not obligated to by law. After a lot of arguing, I managed to convince her to tell her ex by saying that if she didn't tell him, she was potentially submitting his future child to the same fate she had suffered. That is, this child's mother dying of cancer. My now ex-girlfriend's mother died of cancer. I know bringing her mother into this was messed up, but I felt out of anyone she should understand what that's like. Her ex's girlfriend subsequently got tested and also tested positive for high-risk HPV. At this point the reality that it was no longer a possibility that it was spreading, but that it definitely was, set in. I felt like more than ever she needed to let these people know, but she made it clear she was not going to tell anyone else and shut the conversation down every time I tried to broach it. I couldn't understand she could possibly sleep at night knowing she could have passed potentially cancer-causing virus to people who were and are supposed to be her friends and be completely okay with letting them possibly find out through a cancer screening test. So, after weeks of fighting with myself over whether me intervening was the right thing to do, and asking a few close friends their thoughts on the matter, I phrased the question hypothetically. I found her former best friend's brother, her current friend, and the person her ex dated after her, but before his current girlfriend on Facebook and wrote them a message explaining the situation and that they or any of their partners since 2014 should get tested. When I told her about this she became incredibly upset and said that I had no right to tell them and that that was personal information, but I stood by my actions saying it was the right thing to do. Since then she has said that the people I wrote to have told her that I was in the wrong and it was not my place to tell them, which has me questioning whether or not did the right thing. So, Ida? Redditor's reaction. Story 6 after. Redditor 1. Dude. You realize you could be the carrier, right? You may have been the one to expose her as it may be dormant in you. Just because it won't hurt you doesn't mean you don't have it or carried it all along. Also, HPV vaccine exists. Uda, you have 0 rights to tell anyone anything about anyone's medical history. That's her responsibility. Redditor follow up. The timeline doesn't add up if her ex has it, since she would have slept with them before op. Not that that changes the fact that he shared medical information. Redditor 2. I think whatever the doctor told her was all she needed to know to make her own personal decision. You butted in not trusting the medical advice given to her. So Uda. Shot.html thinking the vaccine that is done now must work well. No idea of all, but I agree with those who say you need to actually educate yourself. And stay in your lane. Redditor follow up. Also, it can be passed from mother to child at birth. My siblings and I all have it from my mum. It was the cervical cancer strain. Both my mum and my brother got cancer exact same type. Yes, it's called penile cancer and is uncommon but does happen. I caught mine early. We have got all our kids vaccinated. Redditor 3, Uda dude, she's most likely not patient 0. Also, women get tested for HPV every 1-3 years anyways at the doctor. It's part of the screening. It comes and goes for many years and there's really no way to pinpoint unless the woman has had one partner and he only had one previous partner. Women should be getting tested anyways, so there's real no need to tell anyone. You need to stop sharing her personal medical information. Story 6, cheating ex-flaunt side chick, loses his job and she gets graduation dress burned into oblivion. This happened almost 10 years ago, so even if dots get connected, I know I'm safe as per our laws. This didn't actually happen to me, but I executed the revenge. My last year of middle school I introduced my best friend, whom I'm gonna call Lily, to one of my arts classmates, who I'm gonna call Shitty. They dated for around 7 years, all through high school and uni, until she found right after graduation Shitty'd been cheating on her with his classmate from uni, Cat. Lily and Shitty took language lessons at a small school next to a big shopping mall, and after their breakup I went with her there so she could cancel her classes. I'd been giving her grand speeches about how life would take care of teaching the guy a lesson, all this crap. After being done with cancellation fees, papers and all, we went into the mall for a feel better dessert, and guess who was there at the food court? Shitty, who spotted me and Lily right away, and Catty Cat, who looked as white as a ghost. Shitty literally dragged Catty Cat towards us, who were both frozen because can you believe it? And at first Catty Cat, who clearly wanted to be anywhere but there to greet Lily, and ask Lily, are you not gonna talk to me? All the while with a disgusting grin. I pulled Lily from there without a word. We left the mall, walked to the bus stop, all in silence. After I had digested what had just happened, I told Lily, you know what I said about life? Forget it, it's gonna take too long. I know what I did afterwards was illegal, and only later would I realize how catastrophic it could have been. Lily still had all of Shitty's passwords, bank account, email, cell phone, etc., and he had hers. As soon as we got home, she'd been staying with me since the breakup. I made her change all her passwords, and asked her for his emails. That's all I wanted. In our country, WhatsApp is the most used social media, and we often set it to backup daily into our Google Drive or Gmail. Shitty had his backup on Gmail. I skimmed through 2 years worth of conversation with Catty Cat, complete with pics and audio files, and screenshot cropped out the most interesting parts, such as them talking about time in the restrooms and emergency exit at Shitty's work during his shift, bragging about how they blinded their so's to have their escapades. Turns out Catty Cat was married. Now, I was going to send the clippings of doom to Shitty's family, he was their golden boy, but I got a better idea after learning how bad they had ducked up. So I tracked down Shitty's boss on LinkedIn, got his work email, found Catty Cat's husband on FB, and using a throwaway account sent them the bomb. Heard through the grapevine Shitty got fired, but cried literally for a second chance, and was on probation at work. One more duck up and bye-bye. Not the outcome that I wanted, but may. Fast forward a few months, I was talking to my cousin and she was telling me about how her fiancé's colleague was traveling all over the world, and he recently posted some pictures at a bar made of ice, and she wanted to travel there too. She showed me the picture the guy had posted. Lo and behold, traveling colleague was Catty Cat's ex-husband, Rick. I asked her how she knew Rick, and she told me he was her fiancé's friend and work colleague. I didn't tell her about my shenanigans, only said Rick's ex-wife and my best friend's ex had cheated on her, and inconspicuously I asked my cousin how Rick was, how it must have been a sad breakup for him, and did she spill the tea. So, Catty Cat had introduced Rick to Shitty during her graduation ceremony a few weeks before I sent the bomb, saying, look, this is the friend who helped me with my graduation project. Rick had allowed Shitty and Catty Cat to use his computer at home for said project. Turns out they were ducking on his bed while he was working his ass off to pay for her sorry one, and she made him shake hands with her lover. Rick was a programmer, Catty Cat was from the countryside, and she'd been living in the city with him for a few years. Rick had an awesome salary, he paid for everything so Catty Cat could focus on uni. But one day, he received some evidence his wife was cheating on him, with the guy he'd shaken hands, the same guy he allowed to use his computer, in his house, to help his wife do her graduation project. Rick got her graduation dress, set it on fire, shoved her into the car, drove all the way to her family's home in the countryside, reportedly dragged her into her parents' house by the hair, made her kneel and tell her mother and father what she'd been doing. Her father was so distressed, he had a minor stroke, and her mother kicked her out and cut her off from the family. As far as I know, last I checked was 5 years ago, they were still NC. Rick threw her out of his house, she moved in with Shitty's family, and Rick, now with his salary bitch free, was living la vida loca, going to ice bars in neighboring countries. And I was desperate. Had Rick been 1% madder, he could have burned her along with the dress. Her father could have died after my interference. I didn't calculate how Rick could react at all. I called Lily, told her all about it, lost my sleep over it for weeks, even considered confessing to what I did. Lily asked me to let it go, what was done, to take this as a lesson and let life run its course the next time, as I'd initially said it would. I'm not proud of it, and even though I don't lose sleep over it anymore, I still feel somewhat guilty. Confessing here is kind of cathartic, though. Edit. Fix some mistakes now that I've stopped shaking and am able to function again. Hope now it's easier to understand I rushed when wrote the first time round. Story 7. Haribo revenge goes way farther than intended. I was a witness to this, a long time ago, and the results were learned of by word of mouth. Once upon a time, there was a kid. Let's call him Marco. Marco was your everyday kid, a little skinny. I remember him being slightly geeky. If you left your pens unattended, he'd disassemble them before you turned back around in your seat at times. He was nice, polite, and fairly helpful. This was middle school. One day, though, he does it to a bully. Let's call him Polo. Polo is huge, but with fat. He looks like if you drilled 3 holes into him, a giant could use him for bowling. He's not nice. He's not handsome. He's got a posse of equally disgusting friends who all gang up together to bully others. I suspect that if they hadn't ganged up with each other, they would have been bullied. Perhaps they had been in the past, and got a taste of power over others when they ganged up. I don't know, I kept to myself. One day, I see Marco with a swollen eye and wet hair. He's limping a bit too, and his backpack is ripped. I ask him what the hell happened. Turns out Polo threw him into a bathroom stall by his backpack, which ripped. The toilet got him in the knee, and Polo shoved his face into the water, bashing his eye into the seat. I ask why Polo had done this to him and he says I took his pen apart. It was just a Bic Cristal or some cheap pen like that. Things escalate over the next few weeks. Eventually, Marco has to take time off when Polo strips him naked in the bathroom except for his boxers and makes him shove them into the toilets. The school, being full of your typical assholes, tries to expel Marco for damage to school property, and does nothing to Polo. This is stopped by video evidence of the gang leaving the bathroom, laughing and rifling through Marco's backpack, then tossing it in the trash. When Marco comes back, he's different. He's not happy. He's quiet, subdued. He doesn't talk to anyone, and bruises magically appear on him between classes. He withdraws into himself and begins to look positively skeletal. Of course, no one at the school does anything, except the one nice jock. He comes across Polo stealing Marco's backpack and folds Polo into a trash can. Of course, he's suspended, but does it again when he comes back. The teachers give up on suspending the jock after his parents threaten to sue. The fact that someone bothered to stand up for him, though, seems to have given life back to Marco. He starts opening back up and putting weight back on, which is very good. One day, though, he's wearing a scarf. A very special, beautiful knitted scarf. His grandfather had knit it for him, yes, grandfather before he died. Polo steals it and comes back the next day with a bag of ashes, handing it to Marco. He laughs hysterically. Marco comes back the next day with a backpack full of sugar-free Haribo gummy bears. Polo, being the glutton that he is, steals every single bag of bears and eats them by the fistful throughout the day. Marco cries, but I remember something in his sobs didn't quite reach his eyes. Near the end of the school day, Polo lurches out of the classroom and bolts for the bathroom. He doesn't come back the next day. Or the next. Someone says they saw blood in the bathroom. Polo comes back a few days later with an eye patch and mottled, fading bruising all across his face. I believe it's called petechiae eye. He's permanently blind in his left eye and the bruising makes him look like a ripening fruit for as long as it lasts. He's in and out of school for doctor's appointments for a while. He didn't mess with Marco again and instead became very introverted and quiet. The reports of blood in the toilet of the bathroom he went to were never confirmed, but it's quite likely.